The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Habari Gani. I'm David W. Coleman, and welcome to Black Focus Radio. It's time for another edition, the only show that unabashedly addresses Black issues, creating Black solutions, and amplifying Black voices. Be sure to support our sponsors, joynetradio.com, where they keep you inspired and informed, and they also play Black Focus Radio daily, 12 to 2 p.m. Central Time. Don't forget to support ribrub.com, where we bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah. Give me your hand and I'll take you all down through barbecue land. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Also, like, share, and subscribe the show on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And while you're out there on YouTube, don't forget to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend. Last but definitely not least, please join me and my one-man campaign to get rid of the N-word. It is the most despicable word ever created. Our rise begins with how we address ourselves, and using a derogatory slur against our own people is a negative, self-fulfilling prophecy. Just don't say it. Okay, so this is the day after Father's Day, so I wish all of you a happy Father's Day. I hope you had a great, great day. And we are 2 days after Juneteenth, and we celebrated that. I'm going to have some comments on both of those subjects today. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. One is going to deal with people being historically correct, but being offensive as well. And then, of course, this cult of mothers who want to claim fatherhood. We got to address that, okay? I do this every year, and you would tend to believe that these people would stop showing up on social media, but they still do. All right, so we're going to get into all of that. Some of the other things that we're going to talk about today, if we get a chance. I'm going to address a word to podcasters. It won't be long, but I got to address it because some of y'all are just out of pocket. I'm just going to be honest with you. I know it's your podcast, but I'm going to address it as well. We'll get a chance to talk a little bit about Jamal Bryant and what he's doing with HBCUs. Of course, what's going to happen in, well, it was initially 2042, but they're saying by 2050 it's going to happen. So I don't know if I'll still be here, but hopefully you'll be smart enough and have wised up enough to be able to enjoy the fruits of that labor. If I also get a chance, suicide in Black men, I want to look at that subject if we get an opportunity. Since I am a suicide survivor, I'm going to touch on that a little bit today. If we might touch on the $14 million boondoggle that's in Washington, D.C. It's a continuing story, and it's epitome of what's going on with this administration. So we'll talk about that as well. We want to talk a little bit about what happened in Senatobia, Mississippi. Apparently there's not any corroborating evidence of what the police are saying. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about Jeff Metcalf last week. And if truth be told, this man is not what he tried to accuse Black men of. So, as you can see, we've got a jam-packed show today. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, before we move on, I want to remind people that you can go out to Amazon.com, and if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see these links and so on and so forth. And I post them on Facebook as well. But the book, The Pain of Vengeance, is out. It is doing okay. I need you all to start buying the book. I will tell you sometime today, or I should say, today and throughout the week, I'll probably give some promotional codes away so you can go out and get the audiobook. So it's available on audiobook, ebook, hardback, and paperback. Okay? So there are many platforms that you can download the book. Also, you can go out and look at a sample of the book on my author's page on Amazon as well. Here's the one thing you need to read. If you read that author sample, I'm going to be asking questions throughout the week about that sample. And if you get the question right, you're the first person that posts on it, then I'm going to give you a promotional code so you can download the audiobook. Okay? So that's what's going on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do Black Facts.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
Okay, so today, Black Facts is going to be about what did we do to you. When I say we, I mean black people. And when I say you, I mean white people. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've spent a lot of time in my life studying history. I've read books. I've did lectures. I've listened to lectures. I continue to do so as well. That's part of the reason that I'm an author today, is because I've always wanted to write. But I guess the question to me, as I've studied all of this stuff, and I'm sure many of you have done the same, what did black people ever do to white people? That's a serious question here as we continue to move forward in this day and time, 2026. We're just about halfway through this year. And over and over and over again, we see white people hating on black people, and none of them can give us a reason why. It's just, it no longer bothers me anymore, but it is a bit disconcerting. Let me start with the beginning. 1615, 1619, whenever you want to believe that we got here, let's back up. Because in the early 1500s, black people came to the Americas, right? Abu Bakari, you've seen and read about, well, you may not have, but go out and read about Mansa Musa, who was the richest man in the world, even in today's standard. He would be richer than that other guy that made cars, or didn't make cars, who stole ideas to make cars. I'm not going to call his name. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But Abu Bakari came here early on. Many people couldn't believe why the hieroglyphics on the statues in South America were somewhat equal to, the same, or similar to those found in early Africa. Today, people haven't been able to figure that out. But historians will tell you that it was Abu Bakari who came out of the Atlantic Ocean, and the natives there thought he was a god. That's, by the way, you can read more about that in They Came Before Columbus by Dr. Ivan van Sertima. But when you go back to history, we know that black people were the first in everything. Even today, with modern technology and ingenuity, they can't figure out how those pyramids were built. Remember, they came up with all kinds of reasons. They said it was aliens that did it. That was the best thing that they could do, and didn't realize that some of the images were actually images of our people. Even some of the Egyptians who currently call themselves Egyptians try to pretend that those people weren't black. The oldest universities in the world are black, in Shanghai, in Mali. We gave the white world knowledge. We gave it to the Greeks. We gave it to the Romans, and then you said it was the Pythagorean theorem was created by a white man. When we know the first real calculator was the jawbone of an ox that was found thousands of years before. Everything that this nation is built on black people and black knowledge. In fact, that goes around the world. Okay? So I'm setting this up to ask the question, and I'll ask the question here in just a moment, because as I've looked at history, as I've looked at what the black man has donated or given to this world to make it better, do y'all know why Europeans used to wear high heels? Even the men? Do y'all know this story? Do you understand that in Europe, there's a reason why they called it the Dark Ages, and then the Moors arrived. And we say the Moors, but those were black people. And Europeans were walking around in high heels because of the feces and the urine that was flowing through their streets. Because they didn't have a legitimate plumbing system. So when they needed to go to the bathroom, they would literally poop in the streets. And in order for them to not get the poop on their feet, they developed high heels. Did y'all know that? We were the first to chart the stars and the moons, and we didn't have these fancy telescopes, and we didn't have to go to the moon in order to see or know that the moon was there. You understand this, right? So everything that this nation is built on, this world is built on, began with black people. Then, when they came to Africa legitimately, our ancestors opened our arms to them, and those white people were greeted as friends. Strange though they may have looked, they were greeted as friends. But once we turned our backs, they stabbed us. They killed us. They killed our ancestors, stole our best and our brightest, and brought us to America. And in doing so, the ones that were not killed in Africa, or killed on the beaches, or killed at Goree Island, many of those same people were dropped overboard during the Middle Passage. No one really knows the full number. You know, there are sailors' accounts that were written down, and from what they are saying, or that what was written, is that there were the sharks in the Atlantic Ocean was so become accustomed to bodies being thrown overboard that they would basically just trail the ships waiting for an African to be thrown overboard, our ancestors. That was the Middle Passage. They say over 1 million lives were lost during the Middle Passage. Here's a fascinating thing to me. Because white people who was part of the European slave trade, and we should just call it the white man's slave trade. How do we know that their records are correct? Because many of them tried to hide slavery. I guess Great Britain and Europeans felt bad about what they were doing and outlawed slavery long before America did. But we know that they tried to hide documents. We know they did in America. You know, when we talk about plantations in America, no one ever talks about the breeding farms. But I digress. At least 1 million Africans at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. At least. It's probably more than that. Early on, I used to hear about the Jews and what Hitler did, and 6 million Jews lost. What we never hear about is the black people who were killed by Hitler as well. We never hear those stories. But with that 6 million people lost, no one has actually quantified how many Africans was lost from the time the European slave trade began and when it ended. There's not a number. I've heard up to 100 million. We don't know. They haven't even calculated the number of lives that were lost once they arrived on the American shores and they were murdered. They were worked to death. They were raped to death, died in childbirth, died of disease. Y'all remember the story of Onassis, right? He was the African who saved a lot of white people because he taught them how to avoid smallpox. Y'all remember that story? By the way, you can go and look it up. If you have the book Black, well, you already know the story. If you have Black AF History, it's in that book. But I wonder, because even during the time where we as a people have been treated worse than any other people in the world, we have never made war against America. Even when we became free, ours was not a physical war, but it was a political war of simply treating us like human beings, as opposed to 3/5 of a human. Because you see, there were laws against killing black people or killing people in general, but there were not laws to killing animals. And part of the 3/5 compromise was the fact that, hey, we can go ahead and kill those inhumans because they're not human at all. It hurts me today when I read about the breeding farms. We hear so much about these plantations and the whippings and the brandings and the beatings and the rape of these young women. You know, I guess I'm feeling a bit melancholy today because my daughter, who has been doing yeoman's work, I love you, Chan, in trying to help me find my father, stumbled upon an old relative that was a slave. As much as she could find, and she relayed to me this past week, is that she was 14 years old. She was the product of a rape of a white man. She was mulatto in New Orleans. There's a plantation outside of New Orleans where it looks like my family, at least in America, began. She died 5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. So she really didn't even get a chance to celebrate freedom. You see, the question, if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm asking the question, what did black people do to white people to make them hate us so much? Because the average person, if you've went through what our people has been through, you would tend to believe that we would have wanted to get recompense. We would want some revenge. You see, even after the Emancipation Proclamation, even after that, black people went on about their business. They made their own towns. They made their own banks. They did everything that they needed to do. Even though they had been promised 40 acres and a mule, none of us got it. The fact of the matter is that it was the slave owners who got reparations. It wasn't black people who had suffered under the thumbs of bigotry, racism, rape, murder, child sexual abuse. But we moved on. Not one time did we say we wanted revenge. Not one time did we go and seek revenge. Now, I know what you're saying. You said, well, there were some slaves who fought back. But you're exactly right. They fought back. They were fighting for their freedom. But here's the thing. Black people have fought for this country in every war. One of the first people to die in the American Revolution was Crispus Attucks. He was a black man. The War of 1812, the Civil War, moving west to try to expand this country, the Buffalo Soldiers, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Kuwait, Iraq, Iran. Black bodies have put their bodies on the line for this thing called freedom. And yet we get no love whatsoever. So the question that I have for you today, as I wrap up this black fact, is tell me again what black people did to white people to make them hate us so much. I'd like to know. I'd like to know for some white people. I'd like to hear from those bigots and those racists, people like Jeff Metcalf, who wanted to use all kinds of racial slurs. You cannot point to one thing. You say, well, look at what's going on in the community today. Well, part of the problem is what you created. Because maybe had you given us reparations, in fact, maybe if you wouldn't have even enslaved us, our community wouldn't be the way it is today in a lot of respect. Maybe if you would have made sure that those soldiers who fought all those wars got their just reward in the GI Bill. Maybe if you would have made sure that banks couldn't redline our communities. Maybe if you would have made sure that when you offered welfare initially for white people, and when black people started doing it, you decided that you would make sure that the black father could not be in the household, which ultimately ended up destroying that family. Although you want to run around and talk about family values. I'm going to ask the question again. It's an open-ended question. What did black people do to white people? I'm just asking. Because remember, after the Civil War and we became free, we didn't go into white communities. We built our own communities. We built places like Elaine and Tulsa and Wilmington. The list goes on and on. But also, guess what? You came in and destroyed them. There was a black man by the name of Robert Church who saved Memphis from the yellow fever. He floated the bonds. If you go to Memphis right off of Beale Street, there's Church Park. That's in honor of a black man who saved Memphis, because Memphis was going to be bankrupt. If you go to Memphis and go down to Tom Lee Park, Tom Lee is a black man who saved many white dignitaries in a dinghy because they were on the river having a party and their boat sank. And it was Tom Lee who was collecting trash to try and find things to sell so he could feed his family. And he decided that he would go and save those white people. Tom Lee ended up dying broke. I'm going to ask you again. There's story after story after story that I'm going to ask the question. What did black people do to white people to make you all hate us so much? Because I think that's the question that we need to start asking. That's what we got to start asking these people now. Because where does that hatred come from? You steal our language, you steal our music, you steal our culture. You want to be so much like us, but you hate us. Now, before I close, I want you to be clear. I'm not mad at you. I like to be envied. I like the fact that you want to be like me so bad that you would violate laws, that you would do anything you can to degrade my people just to put yourself on top. Who is the better person? Your people or my people? Because see, that music you listen to came out of black people. All of it. Country, blues, rock and roll, jazz, R&B, hip hop. You said, well, wait a minute, David. Not rock and roll. Yeah, rock and roll. And by the way, that was began by a black woman. Y'all go look up her. Her name is Rosetta Tharpe. Now, as I close, I'm going to ask you again, what did black people do to white people to make y'all hate us so much? That's the question. It's rhetorical because black people can't answer the question. Those white people who are snooping on my podcast, who are trying to figure out who I work for to try to get me fired, I'm just going to ask you the question. Ask it to yourself. Go stand in the mirror this morning, this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow, when you take a shower, and ask the question to yourself, what did black people do to us? Because when you go back in history, there is not one damn thing you can point to make you all hate us so much. And therein lies a flaw in you all's character. And that's our black fact for today.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic black facts, our culture.
I hope y'all enjoyed that black fact.
On joynetradio.com.
You can sponsor Black Facts by sending me an email at blackfocusradio@gmail.com. We're looking for sponsors even more so now. Show is really beginning to pick up. A lot of people are beginning to ask where the show is. So spread the word to spread the word to spread the word that we are out here. Okay? I want to remind you, don't forget to go out to Amazon and get The Pain of Vengeance, my new novel. I should have my second novel done by, hopefully by September. And I'll keep you posted on that as well. All right, we've got to take our first break. When we come back, I'm going to dive into a conversation about fathers and fatherhood. And why are black women trying to steal a father's glory? It needs to stop. Back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
What's old is new again. The release of the Pain of Vengeance audiobook is finally here. A new generation, but the old story remains the same. What happens to an officer of the court when the tables of justice are turned against him? Will he abide or take the law into his own hands? Follow the saga of Malik Coleman as he makes decisions that will change lives forever. Be the first to hear it and hear it again. What would you do? accept an unjust ruling, or reject the system outright that views fathers as second-class citizens. Order The Pain of Vengeance today, now available as an audiobook. The Pain of Vengeance will make you cheer, cry, laugh, and make you question equality and who truly benefits. Order The Pain of Vengeance audiobook by Dante Sinkay today. Barbecue season is here, and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all-natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah. Do you own a nonprofit and are lost in the world of searching for funding? Are you a one-person proposal writer, spending most of your time searching for funds as opposed to submitting proposals? Maybe you have a great community service idea, but can't find the funding to get it off the ground. The Grants and Federal Assistance video is just for you. This video is broken down with simple and concise language for even the beginner to understand, and right now it's on sale direct to you for only $10. That's right. I said $10. You're probably thinking, at that price, it can't be that good. Au contraire, mon ami. It's simple yet comprehensive, tailored to the beginner or advanced nonprofit grant writer. Did I say it was only $10? Once reviewed, and if you require further information, just let me know. It's the Grants and Federal Assistance video, on sale now, only $10. Hurry, there are billions of dollars awaiting your proposal.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. At blackfocusradio@gmail.com. That's the Gmail address, or I should say the email address. So hit me up if you got some questions, comments, or like to have a subject you'd like me to address, or you'd like a guest. We will eventually start having guests again, I promised you. Okay? So I want to talk a little bit. Yesterday was Father's Day. Had a great time with my granddaughter and my son. And from what I could tell, there were a lot of posts on Facebook relating to fathers. That's a good thing. But there's always one. That one woman, or those two women, or those groups of women who are so angry at men that they can't have their day. They being fathers. So those women want to get on various posts or post on social media that Happy Father's Day to me. Okay. I want to read you a story here that I ran across. And I would have to say that some of you all really need psychological help. Okay. I've seen posts where lesbians who are dressed like men claim that they're the father of somebody else's child. Just because you're paying bills for someone else. Look, I was a stepfather at one point. Okay? I was not that child's father. My job as a step parent was to make sure that I exhibit the right character, the right fortitude, to teach that young man how to be a man. That's what, or a woman. That's any stepfather's responsibility. So how the hell are you going to say, because you're a lesbian, that you're somebody's daddy? I don't care if you get mad. Because last I checked, you don't have anything that's going to produce a child. I even saw a court show where this man and this woman was on this court show arguing about DNA. And the woman had decided that she was going to become bisexual. And she had her lesbian partner there. And the lesbian partner was bowled up like she was somebody. I'm the daddy, I'm this, I do that, I do that. And the judge checked her. Baby, you may pay for this child, you may help this child, but you're not the daddy. Slap. But this segment is really not about that. But there's something I think psychologically wrong with any. Look, as a single dad at one point, I never said I was the mother. It never crossed my mind that I would say that I was the mother when my kids were with me. I'm the dad, I'm the father. So where do you get off thinking that because maybe that father isn't in the child's life, could have been ran off, have passed away, whatever the case, could be in jail, whatever the case may be. You're still not the father. So that brings me to Miss Angel Reed. Let me read what she posted. She said, I need to get this off my chest. Last night, my 8-year-old son and I were excited to attend his school's, listen, father and son gala. We dressed up, he wore his little tux, and I wore my gown. I paid $275 to participate in this event with my son. Now remember, the person who's writing this is Angel Reed. If you hadn't figured out by now, Angel Reed is a woman. They were going to attend, listen to the title, a father and son gala. Okay? When we arrived, we were told we could sit and enjoy the dinner, but we would not be allowed to participate in any of the ceremony or activities because it was specifically for fathers and sons. Thus, the name of the event is the Father and Son Gala. Y'all get this, right? I explained that I am the only father my son knows. You say what? What you say? What, Angel? Maybe I misread that. Because maybe Angel is a asexual being where she's able to procreate within herself. You know, because there are some animals in nature that can do that. Y'all do know that, right? Maybe Angel is capable of spontaneous regeneration. So maybe we're wrong, but just based on the science that we know about men and women and procreation, I don't think you did that, Angel. But let me go back. Let me continue. I explained that I am the only father my son knows. I have always stepped in and filled every role. His teacher is aware of our situation and knows I always participate as dad when it's time for these events. School officials told me they didn't know I planned to participate myself, but how could they not know? I have been there for every event, breakfast with dad, donuts with dad, Father's Day programs, everything. I am his parent. Oh, you what? You are his parent. And then she says, I am his parent. I am his dad. Okay, so where's the mama? Where's his mother? My son was the only child in his class not allowed to participate. He watched every other boy walk across that stage with their dad while he sat there beside me asking, why couldn't we go up there together? This isn't just about me. Yes, it is, Angel Reed. It's about my child. He shouldn't have to feel less than because our family looks different. We paid the same fee. We showed up. We were excited to make memories, but instead, my son was made to look like an outsider. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about my personal life. I grew up without a father. You heard me talk about earlier how my daughter has been doing yeoman's work trying to find out who my father is through Ancestry.com. There were many days when I participated in events and my father wasn't there. My mother was in the audience. Let me tell you a quick story. When I became a Boy Scout, which is one of the highlights of my life because I did so many great things as a Boy Scout, we were having a Cub Dad weekend. Well, this was even before I was a Boy Scout. I was still a Cub Scout. We were having a Cub Dad weekend. Notice I said Cub Dad weekend, where dads and their young sons who were in the Cub Scouts would go camping for a weekend down at Camp Quapaw, right outside of Little Rock, right outside of Benton, Arkansas. This was my first Cub Dad weekend, and they were preparing to go the day before. And there was a man by the name of Clifton Earl Towns, and I'm going to try to tell this story without getting emotional. He was the scoutmaster. And everybody was supposed to meet the day before to get information about it and so on and so forth, bring their equipment to make sure they could check it and you had everything you needed. I showed up with my mother, and I didn't want to go to where they were checking all the equipment. My mother said, yeah, you're going to go anyway. You might be able to help them somehow. It's probably about 9 or 10. So when I got there, Mr. Towns, who was one of our church members, by the way, said, hey, David, where's your stuff? I said, I don't have it. He said, well, why don't you have it? I said, I just don't have it. And then my mother said to Mr. Towns, David said he's not going because he doesn't have a father, so he can't go. Mr. Towns looked at my mother. By the way, Mr. Towns was married, had 6 kids. Great man in my life, by the way. He looked at my mother. He looked at me. And then he walked up to me and said, you're going on this trip. I said, but Mr. Towns, I don't have a daddy. He said, yes, you do. I'll be your daddy. And from that moment to the rest of my life, until Mr. Towns passed away about 3 years ago, he's always been my dad, along with other men, Samuel Hudson Sr. But what's the point of this story? Is that my mother understood how much I wanted to go on this trip. She also understood that I didn't know my father. And Mr. Towns understood that. So my mother made me go to that drop-off point regardless of me not wanting to go. Because I think she knew in her heart that one of those men were going to step up and step in to be my father for that weekend. So here's this woman, Angel Reed, who wanted to make a fool of herself and embarrass her son by crashing a father's event. And now you're mad because someone said, whoa, ma'am, you're a ma'am, you're not a sir. That wasn't discriminatory. That was just a fact. This was designed for fathers. And I know You didn't have a brother. You didn't have an uncle. You didn't have a granddad. You didn't have a boyfriend. You didn't have anyone that would have taken this child, this young black male, to a father-son event. You could have went. You still could have dressed up and wore your fancy dress. But your place was in the audience, not walking across the stage masquerading as someone that you were not. And that's his father. So I don't care if you're mad. What I'm angry about is that this country, and particularly a subset of black women who want to continue to degrade black fathers, who want to continue to pretend that they are men, they can raise a child better than a man, when statistics show us beyond a shadow of a doubt that father-led homes have more successful children, whether they are in the home or not in the home. Don't get mad at me for saying it. Do your own damn research. I'm tired. And Miss Reed, for whatever reasons that you got that burr under your saddle about them, you should have understood. The event didn't embarrass your son. You embarrassed your son. And no doubt he loves you. I'm not doubting that at all. But sometimes we as adults don't really take into consideration the feelings of our children. And you embarrassed your son. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't feel sorry for you, and you shouldn't have had your ass there in the first place. That's how I feel. And on that note, we'll take another break. It's called Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com. Barbecue season is here, and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all-natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah. What's old is new again. The release of the Pain of Vengeance audiobook is finally here. A new generation, but the old story remains the same. What happens to an officer of the court when the tables of justice are turned against him? Will he abide or take the law into his own hands? Follow the saga of Malik Coleman as he makes decisions that will change lives forever. Be the first to hear it and hear it again. What would you do? Accept an unjust ruling or reject the system outright that views fathers as second-class citizens? Order The Pain of Vengeance today. Now available as an audiobook. The Pain of Vengeance will make you cheer, cry, laugh, and make you question equality and who truly benefits. Order The Pain of Vengeance audiobook by Dante Sinkay today. Do you own a nonprofit and are lost in the world of searching for funding? Are you a one-person proposal writer, spending most of your time searching for funds as opposed to submitting proposals? Maybe you have a great community service idea, but can't find the funding to get it off the ground. The Grants and Federal Assistance video is just for you. This video is broken down with simple and concise language for even the beginner to understand, and right now it's on sale direct to you for only $10. That's right.
I said $10. You're probably thinking, at that price, it can't be that good. Au contraire, mon ami. It's simple yet comprehensive, tailored to the beginner or advanced nonprofit grant writer. Did I say it was only $10? Once reviewed, and if you require further information, just let me know. It's the Grants and Federal Assistance video, on sale now, only $10. Hurry, there are billions of dollars awaiting your proposal.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. I've got so much on my list of things I want to discuss today, but I don't know that I can get to everything, so we'll hold off some of it probably till the next show so I can do justice to the subject matter. One of the things I want to make sure I discuss are reparations. As you know, a couple of years ago, there's this town in Illinois that decided that they were going to pay reparations for African American people. You're seeing around the world that there was a conference in Ghana where there are a lot of African nations who are demanding reparations for what the slave trade did to their nations. It was comical to me, and a lot of people still didn't get the opening scene with Black Panther when Killmonger talked about the African mask that he took from the museum and the vibranium, although vibranium is not a real mineral, but he told the woman that it was stolen from Africa. There have been stories where the museums in England and Paris and a lot of places around the country have over the decades made millions of dollars off of stolen African artifacts, and have refused when those same African nations demanded recompense and for them to be sent back those artifacts, and the British government wanted to loan the artifacts back to these African nations. Let me give you a stark example. Let's say, for instance, someone breaks in your house, okay? And you realize, or you know who broke into your house. You have a list of things that were taken. And you go to this person and say, hey man, that's my stuff. I want it back. That person doesn't say, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have broken your house, but I did. I shouldn't have taken that stuff, but I did. But I'm not going to give it back to you. If you want it back, then I will loan it back to you. That's what some of these museums have been saying to African nations. When the United Nations talked about what the slave trade did to the world, there were 3 nations who voted against that piece of legislation in the United Nations. Do you know who they were? One of them is obvious. The United States, Israel, and Argentina. They voted no. Now let's be realistic. There were many European nations who simply abstained, which is really like a no vote. But those particular nations, United States, Argentina, and Israel, all voted no. We know the history of Argentina, how they used black men to fight their wars and sent black men to the front lines and ultimately ended up bleaching black men out of that country. If I had free tickets today, I would never go to Argentina. So while those black men were dying on the front lines in their wars, the white men who weren't fighting were raping the black women and demanding that they marry white. Bet y'all didn't know this, did you? Do your research. Israel denied the original Jews access to the land that they stole from Palestine. And when they finally capitulated, oh, by the way, that same Israel was supporting the apartheid movement in South Africa with our dollars. So when they finally capitulated and started letting black Jews into Israel, guess what they did? They claimed that they were giving these black Jews shots so they wouldn't spread disease and so on and so forth, so they could be immune. But in reality, they were giving them Depo-Provera so that they could not have babies while in Israel. It's kind of like America giving blankets that was infected with smallpox to the Native Americans. It's kind of like the Tuskegee Institute and white doctors allowing black men to get syphilis and live their lives, and not only get syphilis, never told them they had syphilis, never gave them the real cure for syphilis. And those men went on to have relations with their wives and girlfriends and ultimately began to affect them. Hello? Hello? Y'all understand what I'm saying here? This is a sick, sick world. So, I say all that to say this, that every now and then there's a bright star. And I want to give a shout out to Governor Andy Breshear from Kentucky. Governor Andy Breshear has posthumously pardoned 43 people who were imprisoned for helping enslaved people escape to freedom, calling the move an effort to correct a historical wrong ahead of Juneteenth. Breshear announced the pardons Monday and also proclaimed on June 19, 2026 as Juneteenth National Freedom Day in Kentucky. Juneteenth commemorates the end of slavery in the United States and honors the contributions and struggles of African Americans. He says, "We have a chance to correct a historical wrong, and we should do it. These leaders are heroes, not criminals, and they and their families deserve the justice of having their names cleared." The pardons apply to individuals who were arrested, imprisoned, or otherwise punished for helping enslaved people reach freedom through efforts connected to the Underground Railroad and other escape networks. Among those pardoned was Elijah Anderson, a free black man who historians say helped about 1,000 enslaved people escape. Anderson was arrested in Louisville and later died in a Kentucky state prison. Also pardoned was Juliet Miles, a black woman who crossed the Ohio River to rescue her children after learning they were going to be sold. She was also arrested and died in prison. Thomas Brown, an Irish immigrant who was imprisoned at the age of 60 and reportedly suffered severe beatings before his release, was also among those who were pardoned. Historians and educators joined Breshear during this announcement. Historian James Pritchard said the pardons helped bring attention to an overlooked chapter of Kentucky history and recognize the sacrifices made by those who helped gain their freedom. The governor said there may be additional people who deserve similar recognition and encouraged Kentuckians to submit information about others who may qualify for a posthumous pardon. Now, was Andy Breshear, what political persuasion do you think he was? He wasn't a Republican, because the Republican has been taken over by the KKK. So I want to applaud Mr. Breshear for doing yeoman's work, doing what was necessary and what should have been done a long time ago. You know, that kind of brings us back to that question of reparations, doesn't it? Because remember what I said in the Black Facts? Black people are the only people who have never risen up against America. Anywhere. Anywhere. And you don't want to pay us reparations? You paid Chinese reparations. The Japanese reparations, I should say. Paid every one of them $20,000 for the Japanese internment camps. And you don't want to pay reparations? And now the Trump administration is going after the town in Illinois who had already said they were going to pay reparations to black people. And now y'all are trying to stop that. Look, I didn't plan this to go this way, but we're back at the beginning of the show. The question that I asked. Tell me again, what did black people do to white people to make them hate black people so much? And on that note, we're at the top of the hour. We'll take a break, give you a chance to ponder that question. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. On joynetradio.com.
Do you own a nonprofit and are lost in the world of searching for funding? Are you a one-person proposal writer, spending most of your time searching for funds as opposed to submitting proposals? Maybe you have a great community service idea, but can't find the funding to get it off the ground. The Grants and Federal Assistance video is just for you. This video is broken down with simple and concise language for even the beginner to understand, and right now it's on sale direct to you for only $10. That's right. I said $10. You're probably thinking, at that price, it can't be that good. Au contraire, mon ami. It's simple yet comprehensive, tailored to the beginner or advanced nonprofit grant writer. Did I say it was only $10? Once reviewed, and if you require further information, just let me know. It's the Grants and Federal Assistance video, on sale now, only $10. Hurry, there are billions of dollars awaiting your proposal. What's old is new again. The release of the Pain of Vengeance audiobook is finally here. A new generation, but the old story remains the same. What happens to an officer of the court when the tables of justice are turned against him? Will he abide or take the law into his own hands? Follow the saga of Malik Coleman as he makes decisions that will change lives forever. Be the first to hear it and hear it again. What would you do? Accept an unjust ruling or reject the system outright that views fathers as second-class citizens? Order The Pain of Vengeance today. Now available as an audiobook. The Pain of Vengeance will make you cheer, cry, laugh, and make you question equality and who truly benefits. Order The Pain of Vengeance audiobook by Dante Sinkay today.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you hung around this long, just hang around for the second hour. We got a lot of other stuff to talk about today. Don't forget to go out and buy the book, The Pain of Vengeance. It's written by Dante Sinkay. That's my pen name. It is on Amazon and multiple platforms, including audiobook, ebook, paperback, and hardback. I hope you'll get out there and buy that book as well. I think you'll enjoy it. It's it's a bit disconcerting, to say the least. There are some good things, there are some bad things, there are some things that'll make you laugh, and there are some things that'll make you cry. But I guess the question I ask is, if you were in that situation, pick any of those characters in the book, what would you do? Okay? So this segment, I want to talk a little bit about us, black men, and our legacy. You know, I periodically, I will get into the Trump stuff, but I try not to. We might touch on the opening of Obama's museum in Chicago last week. I'm still mad at my daughter because she got to attend a lot of those events, and I was here in Baltimore, but I'm okay. I'll eventually get to Chicago. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I really appreciate President Obama. There were some things that I didn't care for what he did, and a lot of that was his I won't say attack on black men, but his misunderstanding as it related to black fathers. Actually, I'm going to send him a book so that he can read my book. I'm going to autograph it to him and everything. So that's in the plans here coming up. But I want to talk about something that's very close to me and something that I experienced because of me. And I want to talk about black suicide. And I know this is probably an uncomfortable situation for a lot of people. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not really talking to those people who have never had to deal with this. I'm talking to the people who may be contemplating this. Let me read a story to you, because it disturbs me and it disturbs you. It should disturb you, particularly if you're one of those women who think you're a man and you say you love your son. It says young black men are now dying by suicide at an historic rate. Suicide in America has long been portrayed as a white, rural, middle-aged problem. Now data from the Centers for Disease Control dismantles that image. But let me just say something real fast. Even though black men were not committing suicide like I'm going to kill myself, they subconsciously, many of them were committing suicide through drugs, gangs, and violence. When you do things to end up getting yourself killed, that's suicidal to me. It just is. Okay? Suicide in America, I got to that. For the first time since the U.S. government began collecting data, young black men are dying by suicide at a higher rate than young white men. Brandon Jones, a mental health professional who works with young black men, said the numbers reflect an accumulation of unresolved pain colliding with a generation that is perhaps, for the first time, willing to name it. We've had these key political situations and social pushes that have affected us as a collective. Young black people are feeling a trauma response that is leading to people wondering, do I want to keep living in a world that is treating me poorly in this situation? New figures from the CDC show that in a total across genders, black Americans have seen their overall suicide death rate climb 53% between 2014 and 2024, more than 10 times faster than white people, and twice as high as Latinos and African Americans and Native Americans. Black boys and young men ages 16 to 29 are dying by suicide at a rate that is higher than white boys. And young men, despite the fact that across all age groups, young men are nearly twice as likely to commit suicide if they're black. The crisis for young black men peaks between 20 and 24, with a death rate of 31.9 per 100,000, the highest of any age group. Jones said social media may play a role for young black men. Social media gives young people A constant stream of images and narratives that may make their own lives feel small and disposable, or sometimes reinforces thoughts of self-harm. The same feeds that helped normalize conversations about trauma and therapy, he added, also bombarded young black men with videos of police killings, war, and other people's highlight and trauma reels. It is a mix that can deepen hopelessness rather than relieve it. Now, let me just say this. You would be let's just say this. You would be well spent if you just simply stopped watching social media if you're not ready to handle some of that stuff. And most kids aren't. That's why I am an advocate of limiting the time that young people spend on social media. Look, I saw a story the other day where this young lady had invited a man, a grown ass man, into her bedroom. Okay? And apparently this grown man lived in her bedroom for a couple of days. He would hide out in the closet. Now, let me say this. The man was like 25. The young girl was 13. And the only way he was discovered is that one night after bedtime, late, the mother got up to go and check on the daughter. And she saw these feet hanging off the daughter's bed. And there the 13-year-old girl was laying next to this 25-year-old man. And I know what you're saying. Oh, that man was terrible. You're exactly right. He was a pedophile, just like Donald Trump and his gang. But also, when they asked, how did they become acquainted? On social media. In fact, it was an app that the daughter had downloaded that the parents knew nothing about, but even still, the parents wasn't even checking her phone. I say this right now. If you got a young child in your house, you should be checking their phones on a daily basis. Okay? And if you don't know how to do that, you need to pick up the phone. Look, I will tell you this. Google is a wonderful tool. Just here's what you can put into Google. How do I find if my daughter or son or my child is hiding apps on their phones? Whether it's an Apple or an Android. And it will give you a list of things you can check. More importantly, there are computer shops around the country, around your city, that you can take your child's phone. You should do that at least once a month, unbeknownst to your child. Don't tell them, hey, I'm going to take your phone and take it to this computer guy so he can check it. No, don't tell them. Because number one, you're paying for that phone. You're paying the phone bill, right? So theoretically, that's your phone. Y'all get this, right? So you just commandeer the phone one day and take it to the computer guy and say, look, I need you to check this phone. Okay? And if you're one of those parents who's got to explain everything to your 10-year-old kid, just tell them, hey, I'm taking the phone to check it for malware. Want to make sure you're not getting hacked. That's a great excuse right there. Just tell them, hey, I'm going to take your phone to a computer guru just to make sure that you're not getting hacked. You should tell your child, hey, look, I need your phone because I want to make sure that our network is not being hacked. Because if that child is on your computer network at home, your internet, theoretically you can be hacked through his phone or her phone. So take the phone and go to a computer guru and have that computer guru check the phone for hidden apps. Because these kids are smarter than a lot of these parents. So just do that. I'm telling you, that would save you all a lot of time and it would save you a lot of pain. So that story is talking about how social media is affecting a lot of black men. I will tell you that there are times when I'm on social media and it can be frustrating to me, and I'm a 65-year-old man. There are times, even though I do news and I talk about news, there are times that I'll go 2 and 3 days without even turning on the news on the TV, because sometimes it's just so damn depressing, especially in this day and time. I can certainly see how young black men feel like they're not wanted based on the bigotry and the racism that is going on. You know, part of the reason that I do my black male teenage survival kit is because of that. I wanted to show young black men that there is a different way. That's why I'm so angry with rappers. You know, I was listening to a piece about war. You all may not be familiar with that group. I was listening to a piece about Earth, Wind, and Fire and Marvin Gaye, and just kind of reminiscing. As if you watched the Obama event last week, Stevie Wonder was the headliner, and one of the songs that he sang was Higher Ground. Keep on keeping till you reach that higher ground. It was about positiveness. It was about moving forward. But today, our rappers, our musicians, they only know how to talk about drugs, gangs, and violence, murder, mayhem, and misogyny. That old saying, garbage in, garbage out. If you're continually fed negativity, if all you hear is negativity, then guess what? Odds are that you're going to be a negative person. There's a reason why I don't watch some of these new black shows that are on, because I've never watched The Wire. Okay? I watched Power because I heard so many people talking about this show. I wanted to see what it was all about. I'm glad I watched it, because I watched a show that black people glorified, because Ghost destroyed his family. His daughter was murdered. His son became a big-time drug dealer, fashioning after himself. And by the way, there were multiple black people who were murdered at the behest of Ghost. And we glorify this. There's no reason to be doing this, but you wonder why our young black men in those statistics are leading that category. Because everything that they see is negative. I will tell you that I would argue that if truth be told, a lot of those young black men would not want to be in a gang. If truth be told. They may never admit it to you publicly, but I've had a couple when I did my rites of passage camps that would come to me and say, Mr. Coleman, I never really wanted to be in this gang. It was what everybody did in the neighborhood. This is why fathers are so important. I remember watching John Shaft. You remember the scene where the woman came, John Shaft went by the house, and the woman pointed out her son that was hanging on the corner with the young gang members. And John Shaft went down there and beat the hell out of that young man, not her son, but the leader of the gang, and started saying, "What's my name, John Shaft? What's my name? What's my name?" And he basically told the guy, if I ever see that boy around you again, it's going to be hell to pay. You see, these young black men don't want to be in this situation. This life is hell. If you are a black man, this life is hell. It's hell for all black people, but particularly a black man. You know how I know? Because I'm a black man. I'm 65 years old and still catching hell from one corner or another. It never ends. Even if you got money, it never ends. So I'm not surprised. But I think we as black people have got to do a better job of making sure that the information that our young people are receiving is positive. We've got to do a better job of going into communities and saying, hey, young brother, don't do that. We've got to do a better job, black mothers, in making sure that there is a positive role model in the life of your child. Again, we've come full circle back to the story about me and Cub Dad Weekend. Because I tell people all the time, you may not know these names, but there were 3 men in my life that I owe my life to today. I sit here today at 65. Benjamin Madry, Samuel Hudson Sr., and Clifton Earl Towns. Hello? So, black mothers, you must do everything you can to make sure that there is a black role model in your son's life. Your daughter too. Because originally I was just doing rites of passage camps for black males. Y'all get this, right? And a lady came up to me. That was my second camp, and we had 100 black males from all across the city of Memphis. And this lady came up to me. I was actually at this church, and I was recruiting mothers and fathers so I could get their black males to come to this camp, to my rites of passage and queenship camps. They were originally called rites of passage camps. Get this, right? So this woman came up to me and said, look, I heard I sent my son to your camp last time. I don't know what you did to him, but he came back a different young man. She said, but I have a daughter too. She is 1 year behind my son, and they don't have a father figure. So is there anything you can do for my daughter? I said, ma'am, I really don't want to deal with girls. They are too much of a problem. I just don't want to deal with, I don't want to deal with the potential of anything happening to your daughter. I am a man. I can deal better with a man, a young boy. So she said, oh, okay, I understand. I went home that night and I thought about it. I thought hard. And then I consulted the minister of that church. I said, a lot of the information that I'm offering can help young girls as well, but I just don't want to take a chance on something happening to these girls. I just don't want that on the church, and I don't want that on me. I would never forgive myself. He said, what if you do this? He said, you have all men counselors for the men, right? Yes. He said, what if I could help you recruit some women just to be the counselors for the women, the young girls? I said, you know what? That's a great idea. Instead of rites of passage, it became rites of passage and queenship. ROPQ. ROPQ. You understand this, right? So we as black people should be doing everything we can to make sure that our children are growing up in positive atmospheres. And when they want to come home and watch some of that crap, when they want to listen to that music that is nothing more than poison to their minds, and then you turn around and you see these same people who poison their minds are now calling themselves leaders. You know, Malcolm X talked about that. He said, our leaders are comics, comedians. They are athletes. Their leaders were lawyers and doctors and scholars. A comedian can't lead us. A rapper can't lead us, particularly when you've made your blood money off the backs of black people. We should not ever let that slide. You all may not remember Freeway Rick Ross. You all may not remember him, but he was the guy who helped the FBI initiate rock, crack, cocaine into the black community. He set up the distribution networks, and he did it simply because he was trying to keep his ass out of jail. You see, a lot of people talk about Ronald Reagan, but people don't understand that Ronald Reagan, along with Oliver North, was shipping arms to Nicaragua, and then those same planes were flying back to America full of cocaine, and that cocaine was being distributed in the black community. And then all of a sudden they come up with 3 strikes you out. Then they come up with the 5 and 5 cocaine deal, where 5 grams of crack and 500 grams of cocaine were different. Whereas white people, they use powdered cocaine, which usually came in higher quantities, and black people use crack cocaine. But they were simply trying to poison the black community, and they were successful. I guarantee you that anyone my age, anyone could not tell you that they didn't know someone who was part of the crack epidemic. Let me take a break. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
What's old is new again. The release of the Pain of Vengeance audiobook is finally here. A new generation, but the old story remains the same. What happens to an officer of the court when the tables of justice are turned against him? Will he abide or take the law into his own hands? Follow the saga of Malik Coleman as he makes decisions that will change lives forever. Be the first to hear it and hear it again. What would you do? Accept an unjust ruling or reject the system outright that views fathers as second-class citizens? Order The Pain of Vengeance today. Now available as an audiobook. The Pain of Vengeance will make you cheer, cry, laugh, and make you question equality and who truly benefits. Order The Pain of Vengeance audiobook by Dante Sinkay today. Barbecue season is here, and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all-natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our forces. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. We got a couple of more segments to go. I want to touch a little bit on Jamal Bryant, but I don't want to just leave off where I was last segment about what we got to do for our young black people. And it starts with our music. And I know some of you all are going to call me a fuddy-duddy and whatever the case may be, but I say all the time, garbage in, garbage out. And what's coming out of the music industry right now is nothing but garbage. You know, my daughter went to an Arrested Development concert last Thursday. And I went back and started listening to Arrested Development. If you all you're not familiar with them, if you've forgotten them, do yourself a favor and go back and listen to some of their music. Arrested Development was a young group, and in the mid-90s, by the way, that was the last time we saw positive rap music for our young people. In fact, there were rappers today who were chastising and criticizing Arrested Development for their music. You never heard, when I was growing up, Everybody had their own style. You had the Isley Brothers, the Barcades. In fact, you knew certain, based on who the group was, the type of music that they were going to make. In fact, you bought their albums and 8-track tapes because of their sound. I'll give you a classic example of that. Frankie Beverly and Maze, among many others, had their own unique sound. I saw a video of young people, singing Before I Let You Go at a Juneteenth celebration in Washington, D.C. You understand what I'm saying? So these rappers who have created this genre, who hated on Arrested Development, has helped to poison the minds of our young people. Drugs, gangs, and violence, murder, mayhem, and misogyny. I've told you all over and over again that these rappers don't give a damn about you. They are the Nino Browns of our time from New Jack City. They show up and give you trinkets. They give you turkeys for Christmas, and they might go and buy a group of kids some toys. But ultimately, they're laughing all the way to the bank, because if they satisfy mom and daddy with poison, then their children are going to grow up with poison. Y'all get this, right? So let me give you an example, because I must talk about this. Jay-Z is the classic example of this. Yeah, that Jay-Z. Y'all think he's the greatest rapper ever created. Well, you know what? If he was so great, why did he create music to poison the minds of our children? And now why has he partnered with the white supremacist movement to try to keep our voices quiet? Y'all know Jay-Z, the guy who all of a sudden, when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling back in 2015, when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling because of the police brutality that was going on and the murder that was happening, that is, by the way, still happening. Where you at, Jay-Z? I haven't heard you say one word about the young man, the 1-year-old that was killed by police over some Pampers. And word is, and I'm waiting to see the video, they're saying that this cop claims that the car was driving at him. Where, number one, your policy states that you should not be standing in front of an oncoming vehicle. Y'all get this, right? But I haven't heard Jay-Z send one dime to this family. By the way, I haven't even heard the black intellectuals send one dime to this family. Because are you telling me that someone, even if it wasn't the child, maybe it was, oh, and by the way, the Pampers were not stolen. The mother had a receipt. I'm just going by what's been reported. So even if it was stolen, even if it was an Apple, even if it was a boombox or a CD or what, pick your item. Do we live in America? Are we supposed to be judged by our peers, sans Carmelo Anthony? And should we be getting the death penalty for Pampers? Are you serious? You stupid black people out there who are saying stuff like that, you're the problem. You see, black men were being murdered early on in the existence of this country for simply looking at white men in the eye, for simply looking at a white girl. See Emmett Till. See John Carter. I can go down the list. So you're telling me now that it's okay to be killed because of Pampers. And you're telling me that it's okay that Jay-Z and all of these rappers who have made this debasing, misogynistic, murdering music, now they're some type of great person? I'm sorry. They've planted, or no, let me take that back. They've helped cultivate the seeds of our destruction. Because Jay-Z told us that it's time to stop kneeling. And by the way, at the time, there were only 3 black head coaches in the NFL. You know how many black head coaches in the NFL there is today? As I do this show, 3. So what has changed, Jay-Z? All Jay-Z became was a glorified DJ for the NFL. And he gets paid big money to do that. So last week he comes out and says, I'm going to partner with Target. I'm going to release my album with Target exclusively because some of you all are going to rush to Target. I got to get Jay-Z stuff. Oh, Jay-Z, he bad. He the biggest, he the baddest MC. He this, that, and other. You don't even know that if your brother is dead, if your sister is on crack, if your mama has high blood pressure, you all don't realize that Jay-Z helped contribute to all of that. Now, I know what you're saying. What Jay-Z does a lot for the black community. He's Nino Brown. Just like all these other rappers. They're Nino Browns. That's what they do. They give you crumbs while they have the whole loaf of bread. That's what Jay-Z does. And just last week, I was on a post where, Curtis Jackson, I call him 50 minus 25. He partnered with, check this, if y'all don't know, he partnered with many white legislators and white businessmen in Shreveport, Louisiana, so he could build a movie studio. He didn't even consider what was going on with the black people in Shreveport. And people were, oh, this is great. 50 Cent got his own movie studio, this, that, and the other. He's Nino Brown. Because remember, 50 Cent was the one who created Power. And from what I understand, that story is still going on. I don't know what to say about y'all. I say this all the time. I have seen the enemy and he is we. Everybody's checking Jay-Z, and you should. Here's my thing. Y'all remember when R. Kelly got arrested and convicted? How so many of y'all ran to R. Kelly's defense? Well, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I wasn't a big R. Kelly fan because of some of the music he made. I Believe I Can Fly is a fantastic song. But some of the other music that he made was just degrading to women, to men, to black people. But I tolerated it because you have those types of genres in the music industry. Here's when I separated myself from R. Kelly. When he married Aaliyah. And that came out. And it came out that he was doing all of that stuff to those young girls. You remember Ray Rice and how he beat his girlfriend all on camera? I wasn't a Ravens fan, but hey, I respected Ray Rice. I separated myself, my thought patterns from Ray Rice. It all changed. I was never a fan of P. Diddy. But my point is that all of you all, even Bill Cosby, look, I grew up with Cos, man. I grew up watching Bill Cosby. Y'all don't realize Bill Cosby used to have a comedy show every Monday. It would be the Bill Cosby show and the Flip Wilson show right after it. Okay? But when I heard about what Cosby had done to those women, I kind of had to separate myself from it. And Cosby dropped a lot of knowledge on people, on black people. He had a book about fathers. You see, at some point, just because they're black, we cannot continue to condone negative behavior that they push into our community, all for making money. And that's what Jay-Z and a lot of these rappers have done. And he proved again, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the type of person he was. He proved that. We don't even have to guess anymore. He said, I don't give a damn about you black folks. I'm going to go to Target, boycott, be damned, and y'all going to come and buy my music. And y'all going to help Target make money, and I'm going to make money. This is how they think. I told you a few shows ago that when black people start making money, they all of a sudden become Republicans. Because what do Republicans do? They give tax breaks to rich people. Hello? But you gotta be careful, because y'all know the comedian Faison. If you're not careful, you will end up like Faison. Faison right now is in jail. And from what I understand, Faison was living on the street. And the only thing that he's making money off of is residuals from Elf, the movie. Okay? So be careful, Jay-Z. There are many other stories about these rappers who were on top. At least you thought they were on top, but now they're on the bottom. And now they want people to come to their aid or their rescue. But we're not. You want an example? Let's try Reverend Jamal Bryant. I like what he's doing. He partnered with 16 HBCUs. 16. They're raising $5 million. In fact, in my opinion, it ought to be $100 million that they can raise. And that money that they're raising is going to black kids who choose HBCUs. You know, I talked last week about this lady who claimed that you can't get the same stuff at the black universities as you do the white universities. Well, that's a damn lie. That's that white supremacist mentality that you have swallowed hook, line, and sinker. In fact, that old saying, you got to stay 3 steps ahead of white people because they're going to push you back too. Hello? That's a story about HBCUs. I could sit here today and tell you about my daughter, who graduated proudly from Tennessee State University and is now one of the preeminent black psychologists in the state of Illinois. Hello? Meharry Medical College, where I met plenty of people who were dentists. Howard University, Fisk University, all of these great HBCUs, the University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Texas Southern, all of these Jackson State, Alabama A&M, Alabama State, these great Morgan State right around the corner from where I am right now. These great HBCUs who continue to educate black people left and right. That fund that Jamal Bryant is trying to raise should be more than $5 million. It should be $50 million. And you rappers should be donating money to it. But you know what y'all do? Y'all send y'all kids to PWIs. You all are the Nino Browns of today's time. And you don't even know it. And the sad thing about it, you don't even care. That's what saddens me. Thank you, Reverend Jamal Bryant. You don't mind speaking truth to power. Just like Reverend Talbot Swan. We need more people like you. We don't need rappers that just because they made money and they made a record that all of a sudden they leaders. They're in it for the money. They've always been in it for themselves. When someone poisons you, they're doing it for themselves. They're trying to get rid of you. They're trying to make a difference in your life, not theirs. And we need to understand that. We need to understand that. We're going to take our last break. Coming up is What We Must Do. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Do you own a nonprofit and are lost in the world of searching for funding? Are you a one-person proposal writer, spending most of your time searching for funds as opposed to submitting proposals? Maybe you have a great community service idea, but can't find the funding to get it off the ground. The Grants and Federal Assistance video is just for you. This video is broken down with simple and concise language for even the beginner to understand, and right now it's on sale direct to you for only $10. That's right. I said $10. You're probably thinking, at that price, it can't be that good. Au contraire, mon ami. It's simple yet comprehensive, tailored to the beginner or advanced nonprofit grant writer. Did I say it was only $10? Once reviewed, and if you require further information, just let me know. It's the Grants and Federal Assistance video, on sale now, only $10. Hurry, there are billions of dollars awaiting your proposal. What's old is new again. The release of the Pain of Vengeance audiobook is finally here. A new generation, but the old story remains the same. What happens to an officer of the court when the tables of justice are turned against him? Will he abide or take the law into his own hands? Follow the saga of Malik Coleman as he makes decisions that will change lives forever. Be the first to hear it and hear it again. What would you do? Accept an unjust ruling or reject the system outright that views fathers as second-class citizens? Order The Pain of Vengeance today. Now available as an audiobook. The Pain of Vengeance will make you cheer, cry, laugh, and make you question equality and who truly benefits. Order The Pain of Vengeance audiobook by Dante Sinkay today. Barbecue season is here, and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all-natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to Barbecue Land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, excuse me, we've gotten to the segment of what we must do. I would be remiss as a reporter and talk show host if I didn't talk about young Cohen Wiley. He was a young kid that was killed by police, 1 year old. I just wanted to shout out to him. I want to make sure that, again, all of you fathers out there, I love you. Keep doing what you're doing. You know, you're not designed to get credit. You're designed to carry the weights of the world on your shoulders. Continue to step forward. Although those steps may be small, just continue to move forward, because that's important. By the way, that Walmart that all of this commotion happened, reports are today that Walmart has closed. Now, I don't know that it is closed, and shut down, but it has been closed for the last couple of days. Okay? How's the boycott coming? We mentioned Jamal Bryant last segment, I should say. What about you, Asians? There are reports around the country where a lot of these Asian salons, these nail salons and these food places are really suffering because of their ignorance. I played one Asian who said he dared us to boycott their businesses. I knew that was going to hit the fan. But there have been others I've seen that was laughing and joking and making fun of black people. You see, one thing when black people really get tired of you, They're done with you. And the sad thing about it, even if Jay-Z said go to Target, black people ain't going to Target anymore. A whole lot of us are not. The only time I would go to Target if there was just something there that I needed badly and no one else had it. Black people are not doing it. I asked the question, and I've been asking this question now for at least a month, and actually for a few years. When was the last time you saw an Asian, a white man, a Hispanic man, or an Arab man buy stuff in your black business? I would be curious to know. There's a new store, grocery store that opened up in Chicago, outside of Chicago, called 40 Acres. I'd be curious to be able to sit and watch in the parking lot and see how many white people are going in that store. How many white people do you see at the black farmers markets or any other? My point is this, is that they've already been boycotting us. Why are y'all so afraid to boycott them? You know, when you spend your dollar, you expect something, right? When you go to a store, you go to buy groceries, you're spending your dollars. By the way, I went to the grocery store the other day, and it wasn't even a pound of ground beef. It was $11.39. I expect more for my dollars. I'm not gonna buy a three-quarters pound of ground beef for $11.39. You expect more from your dollars. So why do you continue to go to these businesses who don't give a damn about you, who take your money out of your communities and send their kids to fancy schools? And you're struggling. Your neighborhoods are blighted. And the only thing that they can bring into your neighborhoods are McDonald's and Burger Kings. Hello? And then when your child runs amok of the law, then they throw the book at him like they did Carmelo Anthony. Which reminds me. So Jeff Metcalf got on social media talking about all this mess about black people. Don't take care of their kids. They not living with their parent. The kids are not living with their fathers, yada, yada, yada. I asked the question last week, did Jeff Metcalf kill his own son? My argument is yes. But here's the other thing. This is why I talk about fathers. Jeff Metcalf wasn't even living with his children. Did you know that? And word is that Jeff Metcalf has been in prison where he sexually assaulted someone. Allegedly. I'm just saying allegedly. So my question to you, why are we letting these people continue to do this to us? Why? I'm laughing right now because I believe that James Tallarico in Texas is not going to win that race, even though Dan Patrick is one of the most abhorrent persons to ever run a political campaign, second of Donald Trump. But I believe that black people are not going to show up. Black people are upset with the white establishment. I'm just not talking about Republicans, but there were Democrats, white Democrats, who said Jasmine Crockett couldn't win that race. She only began to run for the Senate because of her ego. She was being selfish. And then when Debbie Wasserman Schultz did the same thing in Florida, those same white establishment Democrats didn't say a word. Y'all playing in our face. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is running in a seat, or for a seat, that was traditionally held by a black person. But because the Republicans in Florida wrote out her district, she said, oh, well, let me just go over here to this black district and I'm going to make sure that another black person is not going to get that seat. When y'all going to get tired? Not tired, but tired. All of these people, every day. You see it every day, the hypocrisy of these people. Look, I say all the time, black people have probably gotten it now. is that we're not fighting racism anymore. That's why you didn't see us marching and all that other stuff that we had been doing in the past. Racism is a white person's disease. It's something that we can't catch. It's something that they created. They are the ones to fix it, not us. And that's why I said I started the show off with, what did we ever do to white people to make them hate black people so much? Because if they wanted to fix racism, it would have been fixed a long time ago. Barack Obama was a classic example of their white fear. And now we know by 2050 or 2042, we've been talking about this a lot over the last few years on this show. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing talked about that black people or minorities would be the predominant people in this country. This is all about their fear. I told you that the abortion thing was all about their fear because they wanted white people to have more babies. But they just couldn't say, well, black women can have abortions and white people couldn't. Barack Obama becoming president of this country scared white people to death. Those so-called moderate, middle-of-the-road white people decided that, hey, no, I need to do everything I can to save the white race. That's what this is all about, folks. And then they went to the further extreme, a man who openly was a racist, who had documented proof that he was a racist. And what did these white people do? They elected him president. Not one time, even though he had tried to destroy the Constitution, the thing that they claim that they love, that they're going to be celebrating here in a couple of weeks about, oh, I love America and the Constitution. And they only love America and the Constitution when it affects them. They don't want it when it affects other people. And they're willing to destroy this country. That's what that Klansman said on the Donahue show when Dr. Welsing said by 2042, this country was going to be predominantly minority. And when Donahue asked that Klansman, what did he think about it? The Klansman said, we'll blow it up before we let that happen. So Barack Obama was a wake-up call for the right, for not just the racist. Because now what do you see every day in our Congress and in the Senate? Allowing a man to destroy the Constitution of the United States so that they can profit. Y'all understand this, right? So you tell me again why y'all not boycotting? You tell me again, I saw women, I said, here's what's going to nix the boycott. Black women and nail salons. Because black women, I often ask the question, are black young people, do they have the courage, the conviction, and the character that our ancestors had? That question can be asked to some black women who have refused to participate in this Asian boycott. I'm going to go get my nails. I'm going to go get my hair. And someone said, well, hey, you know where you're buying the hair from, but still, everybody has a distributor if you've never had a business. So even if the Asians are a distributor, if you're going through a black business, that is helping that black business. It's kind of like those people who were complaining about Juneteenth. I saw a lot of stuff on social media, black people posting about Juneteenth. And we shouldn't be celebrating Juneteenth. Why not? You see, those are the same people who said we shouldn't be celebrating Kwanzaa. We should be celebrating what the white man tells us to celebrate, right? But we decided that we were going to celebrate Kwanzaa. You can still celebrate Christmas. We decided that we were going to celebrate Juneteenth because there's historical data as to why Juneteenth is important to black people. I know the Emancipation Proclamation was 1862? January 1st? But at that point, all people were not free. So you have these so-called black intellectuals doing this stupidity. And I'm going to tell you, we need to ignore them. We need to push them to the side. We are the masters of our fate. We control our own destiny, we black people, and we are not going to let anyone tell us when to and how to and what to celebrate, regardless of whether you're black, white, purple. And we're going to make sure that our dollars are going to go to those people who support us. And not just our dollars, but our vote. And I'm going to tell you, James Tallarico and Debbie Wasserman Schutz, you all may lose your race because word is on the street that black people ain't voting for y'all. And that's what we must do. I hope y'all enjoy the show. We'll be back next week. Make sure you check us out. Go out and buy The Pain of Vengeance. It is on Amazon, audiobook, ebook, hardback, and paperback. I'd be curious about what you're doing with it, okay? What you thought about it, all right? And stay tuned throughout this week. We're going to be giving away promotional codes to the audiobook where you can get a free copy. I wish you peace. Happy Father's Day. Happy Juneteenth. And Habari Gani.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joinetradio.com.